If Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was a real weapon, who do you think would be worthy enough to wield the hammer? 4. Mr. Rogers. In a bloodstained sweater. Dolly Parton. I came for Mr. Rogers. This is acceptable. It would be some random dude. To be known requires you have to do some shitty things every now and then. In fairness, Thor did heinous shit all the time. That dude was a giant murdering machine. And he didn't often stop to ask if they'd done anything wrong. Steve Irwin. No question. Bob Ross. We're going to put a happy little dent right here. Keanu Reeves and any dog ever. My papa for sure. Red Heart. Steve from Blue's Clues. Blue from Blue's Clues. Danny DeVito. David Attenborough. Mr. Rogers and Betty White. Oh shit. Loki is killing off the worthy. Funny enough, Mr. Rogers actually lifted Mjolnir once. https://qph fs Koragn Netmain King 5FD92B9C 5287D 70124 EF1 bar 62D3B2C. Edit, and I choose to believe this to be canonical in every universe. Keanu Reeves. Reddit moment. Weird Al Yankovic. That's fair. Weird Al picks up the hammer, looks around. Now it's time to firmly correct someone's grammar. The obligatory 6. Keanu Reeves. Bob Ross. Mr. Rogers. Dolly Parton. Betty White. Steve Irwin. Edit. In dumb and can't count. So have a Steve. That's only 5 people. At least in the comics. Mjolnir's definition of worthy varies a good bit. As long as you've got decently good intentions and a fighting spirit, you are worthy for the most part. So there's the obvious ones like Cap and Thor, but also some villains. One of the more well-known examples is Doctor Doom, whose entire personality hinges on him wanting the best for the world and thinking the only way is through a maniacal dictatorship. Have any children ever tried to pick it up? Chris Helmsworth. Dogs. They would have a great time picking it up and carrying it around. All dogs are worthy. Red Heart. Dogface. Betty White would have been able to. Vincent D'Onofrio circa Adventures in Babysitting. Vincent D'Onofrio's Fisk would clearly be enraged by the hammer. Just the hammer existing and not allowing him to pick it up. Very few people. Not only that but very few cats are able to nudge his hammer off of a tabletop. Rare is the canine Thor may play fetch with. Raccoons fail to rummage through his garbage can when his hammer holds it down. All hail Thor's hammer. My mum when she finds out I still haven't taken out the trash. Any kids who tried to defend people from school shooters. Louis Guzman. I loved him in MB. Dolly Parton. Paul Rudd. But then he'd be lifting Jonathan. Samuel L. Jackson. I'd say hand me my hammer. But you weak ass motherfuckers aren't worthy. Stanley. Old man Stanley. Yes. Had to have his character development through his younger years to establish his worthiness. Mr. Rogers and Bob Ross. Keanu Reeves. And he would do it in his Neo costume. A celebrity that Reddit loves. Considering Loki and Hela both lifted it before, I'd say Danny DeVito. Ashton Kutcher. Fuck his acting but great job against sex traffic. 4. What did you want us to say? Fucking Danny DeVito or something? His brother, Loki. Tom Hiddleston is the most pure-hearted guy out there. Jack Black and nobody can tell me otherwise. It'd be extra light for Keanu Reeves. Audie Murphy. Even with all his wartime heroics, the most badass thing he did was lock himself away alone for 2 weeks while he fought out his drug addiction. When he recovered he began speaking out about PTSD and urging the VA to get help for veterans. Jimmy Carter. Yep. He'd be using it to build somebody a house. Master Chief. Not Bill Cosby anyway. Imagine him just snatching it up and going hey. The Rock. Keanu Reeves. And Chris Hemsworth. No one else. Henry Cavill. Imagine someone thinking they can Marvel Comics using Mjolnir to fly, only to experience the horror of their arm being ripped off because they aren't strong enough and watching their arm fly away with a hammer. Perhaps to rebound with equal force. Wielding Mjolnir gives you the powers of Thor, one of which is presumably not having your arm ripped off by your own weapon. Weird Al Yankovic. Mr. Rogers. Not Steve. Fred Rogers. What if Steve was really Mr. Rogers and he just changed his name after he went back in time to Peggy? No human. Ever. I would like to nominate my daughter as she's still absolutely pure of heart and would be extremely worthy. In a couple of years after she's hit puberty and all the school influencing? Probably not. But we're referring to at this moment. So she wins my vote. For now. Keanu Reeves. Rich Evans. It'd be a blessing and a curse in his case. Much like when it was wielded by Jane Foster. The transformation would mean his battle with rampant diabetes would be repeatedly reset. Brendan Fraser. My buddy Ben. He's just a good guy. Love you, bro. Benedict Cumberbatch. A penwing. Danny DeVito. Yes. I've often thought that Danny DeVito carries a heavy hammer. John Brown. That would be a terrifying event. And I wanna see it. John Brown, surrounded by lightning. Oh General Lee, you're gonna have a reckoning on your hands. For now it's time to face the lightning of God's holy vengeance. My husband. Dolly Parton. Jack Black. Bob Ross. Bernie Sanders. I had to scroll way too far to find this. Andrew Luck. Some of us here are Titans fans and hope to never see that name ever again. Seriously though, this is a good answer. I don't know about worthy, but the only person likely able to move it is Hafthor Bjornsson. The fact that he's called Halfthor is just icing on the cake. Jesus. Jack Churchill and Audie Leon Murphy. Two of the most badass soldiers in history. Definitely not any politician. Jimmy Carter though. Dolly Parton. Here Thor, don't be leaving Mjolnir behind now, someone's liable to walk off with it. Was that even a part of Mjolnir as attested in the Eddas? Or is it a Marvel thing? Mr. Rogers. Kermit. Steve Irwin. Betty White. Jimmy Carter. Imagine how many houses he could build then. Rick Astley and Shrek. Rick Moranis. Keanu Reeves. So I guess everyone is just going with the MCU version? If you're not, then no one will be, because it took a stupid amount of strength. Thor wasn't worthy, he was a degenerate, like most Norse gods. Nathan Fillion. The hammer is his dick. It requires a balancing act of being willing to go to war but not being a warmonger. Brian May. Hell yeah. My grandpa. Very few people, but I reckon Keanu Reeves would be one of them. Keanu Reeves. My papa. They don't make them like him anymore. Buzz Lightyear. Mr. Rogers. Bob Ross. Keanu Reeves. Just to name a few. No one cause all of humanity fucking sucks. Capitol Officer Goodman. My gecko. Keanu Reeves. Keanu. Dave Grohl. Keanu Reeves. Let's be real here. Betty White. Rest in peace. Betty White. Dolly Parton. Betty White. Betty White. Tim the Toolman Taylor. Incoherent grunts of approval. That one wholesome streamer who does wood carvings. God Jesus. Unironically me. Nobody other than Thor himself. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. He died. Mr. Rogers. It requires a balancing act of being willing to go to war but not being a warmonger. No one. Sad but true. Keanu Reeves or Betty White, rip. Wholesome Keanu Chungus. We probably wouldn't know their name tbh. Nobody. The Dalai Lama. Ryan Reynolds. Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves. I came to say this, but I knew deep down in my heart that somehow it had already been said. Keanu Reeves. Tom Holland. Or Tom Hanks. Nobody on Reddit. Keanu Reeves. Wholesome 100. Keanu Reeves. Mr. Rogers. Weird Al. Betty White. Keanu. Mr. Rogers. The real log. Probably a non-celebrity to start with. Nelson Mandela. Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves, that how you spell it? Mr. Rogers. Keanu Reeves. Fred Rogers. Terry Fox. Could you imagine Fred Roger being the one? Or Steve Irwin? Bob Ross. I will offer no further explanation. Bob Ross. Bob Ross. Jorts the Cat. Henry Cavill. Champion of the Emperor Done. Heretics everywhere. Dolly Parton. Mr. Rogers. Keanu Reeves. Betty White. Elmo. No one on Reddit. Ron Paul. Chris Evans. Bob Ross. I feel like the people who could use it would be the people who wouldn't need to, like Gandhi for example could have used it, but never would need to or want to. Steve Irwin. Found this lil beauty stuck under a hammer. He's a little hungry, but he'll be alright. Shame people leaving Amers around like this. I'll dispose of it back home properly. Originally, Mjolnir was so heavy that only one person could lift if unassisted, Thor's son Magni. Even Thor needed gloves and a belt to wield it, so no one. Betty White, Bob Ross, Steve Irwin, Robin Williams. Jimmy Carter. He would probably just use it to continue building free houses. No one on this planet. It is only Marvel which introduced that lifting. Mjolnir. https://en. Wikipedia. Org wiki mj%c3% b6 would require worthiness of the person. Bob Ross. Jimmy Carter. Bob Ross is a great candidate. Mr. Rogers is also a very good option. Bob Ross. Jimmy Carter will bring it as a backup hammer to habitat builds. John Cena. Trumpet, 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 trumpet. Cookie Monster. Obama. Jimmy Carter. Bob Ross. Bob Ross. My cat. Saladin. Have Empire will travel. Saladin's business card. Jimmy Motherfucking Carter. Chuck Norris. The hammer isn't worthy to be held by Chuck Norris. Jimmy Carter is the only one I think. Clearly the Queen of England. Like come on. The correct answer to this type of question is always Bill Murray. Chuck Norris. Stephen Hawking. Maybe place it in his lap. Chuck Norris. Jimmy Carter. Seriously, no one has put Tom Hanks up for this yet? Bernie Sanders. Me. Chris fucking Pratt hands down. Bernie Sanders.